Welcome, welcome. It's so great to be with you for our first actual installment in our Creative Energy Levels series. And as mentioned in the introduction, we're going to be working with creative energy levels that I've been researching and exploring for a long, long while. So I really like the idea of reminding ourselves that we might be born with everything we need. However, it does take us a while to wake up once we get mesmerized, we could say, or go into hallucination, we might suggest to ourselves, as a result of being in the world, in the culture. And so once we begin to realize that we are creative in whatever capacity that's expressing itself for us in our fondest dreams, in our deepest desires, once we feel pulled toward a direction in our life, we need to wake ourselves up so that we're not constantly floundering with doubt and indecision and fear. So it does take a while for every one of us. I mean, we don't just remember how to be who we are once we go into that state of amnesia or hallucination or mesmerization of the third dimensional plane, the earth, the day-to-day life. It just sort of puts a veil over our eyes sometimes, doesn't it? And we forget why we came and who we are. So in exploring the creative energy levels in the way that we're going to, our intention is that knowing about these levels of energy and what they offer, both on the positive end of the spectrum and the negative end of the spectrum, again, kind of thinking like the opposite poles of a battery. We don't judge the negative end as bad and the positive end as good. We simply see that you need them both in order to make a battery function. And so we need both ends of the spectrum on each and every one of the energy fields so that they can work well. Our job, our opportunity, and it is day by day by day, is to find our center and to be at home in ourselves so that when we want to venture toward the positive, we're doing it consciously. And when we are influenced by the negative, we're recognizing that that's what that is. And we have these options, we have choices. We are choice makers. That's the most creative thing in the world, isn't it? I mentioned that we're going to be working primarily with the energy fields that align with the chakra systems, which is a very, very old and established way of recognizing that every living being has these electrical fields, these meridians that run through the physical body of the bug or the bird or the baby, and that allows it to be alive. So what we're doing is we're going to be exploring being alive. What a cool thing. Some people are bored. Some people forget what an extraordinary miracle it is to be alive. So we're working with the energy fields that are going to help us remember, help us welcome back our own sense of, oh, I'm here. It's today. And even if only for 15 minutes, I remember that I'm here and it's today and I'm creative. I can be self-expressive. It's worth it. It's worth it to take a moment out of our very, very busy lives and often very distracted lives and bring ourselves back home again. Just come back and work from home, as we like to say here at the It's About Time format that we work with. So today I want to touch in on, before we go through the 1 through 9 levels of creative energy, I want to start with the 0, with the ring pass knot. So I've got a little bit of information here to share with you. As I mentioned, I've been doing this research and just immersing myself. This is the love of my artist's life. And any of you that I've shared life cycle with over the years, you have had a taste of this energy work and how we work with these creative energy levels. And if you haven't, no worries, because this series is my gift to you and me and all of us to welcome and remember, remind ourselves that we're here to be alive in this precious human life that we've been given. And even that alone is an extraordinarily creative act to engage in at this time. It is 2024. 2024 is just beginning. These energy fields are like layers of an onion, and the energy for 2024 globally, not personally, not what's impacting you and me and each of us 7+ billion people on the planet, the global energy that's wrapping around the world right now is very, very expansive, very high level. And we're going to move our way incrementally up to the energy of 2024. So it's not like I'm forgetting that I wanted to talk about 2024. And those of you, again, who followed my work at Wren House Studio recognize, maybe you recognize, maybe you know, maybe you read, for years I would do like just a very long report on the energy of each current year. And as time has evolved, I have looked for a more expedient way to share the energies of the year. And I don't think I've done an energy report for a specific year since before COVID. So just like everybody else, we're all kind of coming out of this global trauma of an epidemic, a pandemic. And we don't need to push ourselves. Things are supposed to be different now. We are supposed to have been changed by a collective consciousness experience. So in coming around now to the way in which I'm going to be sharing the energy of the creative levels, it's a new approach, and I'm really, really excited to do this. Mentioning earlier in the introduction that it feels vulnerable because I'm sharing something with you that is my work. This is my work. As we go forward, you're going to see more and more that this is my creative self-expression. So I'm not suggesting that you do what I do or you do what I say at all. I'm suggesting that you just turn on your inner ears and listen and note how this energy falls for you. And you might want to take some notes, and you might want to sort of keep track as we go through the series to gather and garner what fits for you, and let the rest, just leave the rest alone. It's always good advice to only take in to our body, our emotions, and our spirit what feels like a fit. So with that being said, today I want to address the first level of energy out of which all the other levels of energy emerge. And that first level of energy is the zero. We could call it the 0 point. We could call it ground zero. We could say that everything comes out of the zero. So when we look at that level of energy, we see it visually and symbolically as a circle. So I'm going to talk about the zero as a numeral, 0, the ring past naught, the naught. And I'm going to also look at it as a symbol, as a circle. So the circle and the 0, that's where we're starting. And I'm going to approach this from, first of all, I'm going to give us a poem. It's a poem I've shared countless times in my newsletters, kind of as a footnote in my newsletters. And I want to share it here because poetry opens us, doesn't it? So rather than even begin with a meditation or a grounding, we can begin with a poem. So I'm going to read a poem that is from Black Elk. Black Elk Speaks. A Native American, indigenous individual, very, very wise, beautiful, beautiful legacy that Black Elk has left for us. So I encourage all of us to seek him out. Check him out on Wikipedia, Google Black Elk, and somewhere along the line, I trust that you will find also this poem. It goes like this. Circles. Everything an Indian does is in a circle, and that is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. The sky is round, and the earth is round like a ball. And so are all the stars. The wind, in all its greatest power, whirls. Birds make their nests in circles, for theirs is the same religion as ours. The sun comes forth and goes down again in a circle. The moon does the same, and both are round. Even the seasons form a circle in their changing and always come back again to where they were. The life of a person is a circle from childhood to childhood, and so it is in everything where power moves. Circles by Black Elk. So a circle, when we draw a circle or we think of the sun, or we think of the earth, we think of a ball, there's a quality of no beginning and no end, right? So when we're working with the zero, as with a circle, we're working with something that is unified, creates a unity. And there's a quality of integration within the idea of a circle or a zero. When we place any number in front of a zero, the idea is that the energy of the number expands. So one alone is one alone, but one with a zero beside it becomes 10. And we all know about the scale of, voting on something from 1 to 10, 10 being, wow, doesn't get any better than that. So the zero has this tremendous power attached to it. As a circle, I like to refer to the work of Angeles Arion. I have got her beautiful book here. Mine is falling apart, but it doesn't matter. Her beautiful book, Signs of Life. I was given this book from two different people in the same year, 1991. I received 2 copies of this book for my birthday, and I have always then used it as a touchstone for leveling the ground in every studio that I've offered as an educator. And it's just stunning what Angeles Arion in the Signs of Life provides for us when she shares with us the 5 universal symbols that occur in art all over the globe, throughout all time, throughout all cultures. We'll find indicators of these elements of, we could call them the elements of design. We can call them, as she does, the universal shapes. I call them the artist's alphabet. And I have often taught my kids at the museum that if you know the 26 letters in the English alphabet, you can write any book you ever want to, as well as read any book that you ever want to if you know the ABCs. And for the little ones, I'll say how many letters are in the alphabet, and they'll guess anywhere from, they're little kids, so they'll guess maybe 80 or 15 or 25. They go all over the place. And every guess, I always say, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. And eventually we get to the idea, the fact that there are 26 letters in the English alphabet. There's also a Celtic alphabet. There's there's alphabets from all over the world. I can just say that, okay? So there's all kinds of ways in which we express ourselves as humans through different kinds of alphabets. This I call the artist's alphabet. Again, I do that for the wee ones. I want them to know that if you know these 5 elements of design, universal shapes, as Angeles Arian calls them, then you can create anything you want through visual art. And of course, they can be expanded into their geometric forms. Here, a sphere, here, a cube, here, a pyramid. I'm not sure about the spiral or the equidistant crossed lines, but you get the idea here that there is a lot of freedom in knowing about the elemental designs, which I then refer to as the artist's alphabet for the kids. And I say, if you know these 5 elements of design, you can draw any picture. And I invite you to look at the picture you've drawn so far in the studio, all the pictures you've drawn so far in the studio, and start picking out those elements of design, even when they're hidden within fast hand movement. So the circle is one of the 5 elements of design. And what Angeles Arian says about the circle is also a good foundation for where we're going with our exploration of the creative levels of or the creative energy levels. So Angeles Arian says that the circle in every culture symbolizes wholeness and the experience of unity. When people are engaged in a search for wholeness, they aspire to independence and individuation. What they need most is space, room in which to find themselves and develop their own identity. What they fear most is entrapment, being caught in a situation that will restrict or restrain them. And I have a story about entrapment that I may sprinkle in here at some point, but that's a very, very detrimental feeling to have or to experience in our lives, that of being entrapped in a situation, a circumstance, a relationship, a challenge that we didn't know was going to happen and we don't know how to get out of. So it's really powerful to allow ourselves to kind of engage in what Angeles Arian is describing here as, again, a foundation for working with creative energy fields. Are you feeling a call to individuate and explore your identity on any given day? We could take 15 minutes and say, well, yeah, I want to kind of check in on myself. I want to see what I'm up to. In another one of my teacher's books, there is, and that's Faith Javane is the other teacher I want to share with you. She talks about the 0. And she said, 0 is classified as a number. It stands for all that was before creation. Therefore, the 0 stands for God. It stands for pure spirit, divine light, the all, the absolute, the living light, creative power, that which was, is, and shall be. It is also described as an omniscient deity, first cause, the I am, the all-seeing I, fountain of eternal life, the will to good, superconsciousness, protection, perfection, and love. And I can add into that the 0 connects us to the infinite creative intelligence that we were born with, and that we often get mesmerized into thinking that we don't have a direct electrical connection to infinite creative intelligence. But during our exploration of these creative energy fields, we'll find, yeah, I just forgot. I certainly am able to plug in, tap in, and connect with infinite creative intelligence. So all those different names, as you listen, you might have one of these that really resonates for you. And I invite you, as our series begins, and in this first episode on the 0 point, ground zero, we can, make some notes on what we're hearing and what we're feeling into that fits. Oh, wow. It's so empowering to only gather information that feels like a fit. I'm thinking of a Zen master who I studied his work in the Wayback Machine, who had a phrase that said, in the beginner's mind are many possibilities. In the experts, there are few. Beginner's mind, Zazen, which is another 0 point. So all of these are giving us a sense of foundation for where we're going as we begin to explore these creative energy levels and how they function together. So the 0 might be left in the dust for a while. We'll be thinking about looking at what comes next, the first level, the second level, the third level, and on up. But we're going to be reminding ourselves that every level, when you put a 0 with it, or you put 6 zeros with it, it really exemplifies the power that we place as we look at and read into the energy field itself. Let's see, what else do I want to say about the 0 today? I think I want to just close this first part, the 0 point, ground zero, with the awareness that it's really beautiful. Something very, very nurturing about drawing circles. So here's my story for our first session in working with the creative energy fields and this spectacular start point of the 0, the circle. When I had my studio in the former high security lockup ward for women, I was the artist in residence for the Center for Therapy Through the Arts. And I was in a beautiful position to open that studio. It was the first time I made my studio public. There was too much energy in the space to keep it all for myself. This space had been in a former psychiatric hospital, the highest floor, 4th floor of this historic landmark building. And my studio was now in this cavernous space that had been the high security lockup ward for women in a state psychiatric hospital. The hospital was closed during the Reagan administration, and it sat empty for 8 years. When I came, it was in the process of being renovated as an outpatient geriatric elder care facility. And because the Art Studio Center for Therapy Through the Arts was relocating there, it fit for me to have my studio, since I was now going to be their artist in residence. So I opened the studio and began to offer workshops of very many different kinds. And because of that, people would come and seek me out. Oh, a mother brought her daughter to see me. The daughter was in her late 20s. Her hair was just growing out, and she had a huge incision from the front of her head all the way back to the back of her neck. Her head had been opened up. And the reason for that was that she'd been diagnosed with a brain tumor. When they did the surgery and got inside of her head, it was discovered that they had made a mistake. There was no tumor. She did not have brain surgery. All she now had was a debilitating trauma, and her mother was seeking help for her. So she began to come to my studio every week, and I suggested that she bring a sketchbook of any size, but a size that felt to her as if it was the right size. Just go to the art supply store and look. And when a sketchbook feels like that's mine, get it, bring it. And she brought an 18 by 24-inch sketchbook to the studio. Which is really very thrilling and encouraging to me. Well, we worked, and every week she came for an hour, and we worked and we worked, and she was feeling troubled because all she could do was draw circles. And I had no problem with the fact that every week she brought in pages and pages, big pages filled with circles. They were beautiful. They were really empowering. And I had already received Angeles Ariane's book and was aware of the power of the circle. So I suggested that when she got discouraged because that was all she could do, draw circles, I encouraged her to see if the circles had something to say to her. Just see if there's any kind of message that the circles bring when you fill a page and you draw them over and over again. And she was using a paintbrush, or she was using a pencil. She was employing colored pencils at different times. They were lovely. They were very beautiful. But she wanted to know why. Can't I do something besides these circles? So I said, let the circles inform you. And they started to talk to her. And I don't know how long we worked together. It was probably something like 6-8 months. But eventually she got to the point where she felt confident again, and things began to move forward for her. Obviously, her injury, what would you call it? Her intrusion scar was covered over by the growth of her hair, and she was beginning to find her own identity. She had been able to individuate herself. She was coming back to wholeness. So life is a mystery, isn't it? And each one of us is made up of so much mystery. It becomes our story. So today, in our first session on the creative energy levels and the ground zero, looking at the 0 point, we have an entry. We can consider our own capacity to be whole. I am here. I am whole. I am strong. I am perfect, perfectly protected, powerful, powerfully connected to the earth and to the sky. We're each a channel for spirit and for light and for creative energy. And unless we block it, the energy just flows through us. It gives us a sense of rooting, and eventually we feel our wings, and we feel like, yes, it's my time, and I'm here to fly. And that doesn't necessarily happen soon. We think it's going to happen when we're 20. We think it's going to happen when we're 35. We think it's going to definitely happen when we're 40. And by then we think, oh, it's too late. It hasn't happened. But trust the process. We never stop growing. And as my mentor, Alice, reminded me very early on, we all have a star, a North Star, our own personal Polaris. We're being guided. And so as we allow these creative energy levels to come to meet us, and we receive the energy and the information that they hold as creative tools, ooh la la, the sky is the limit. And I'm so grateful that you're here now as this video is being released, or that you pick it up later and remind yourself that you are a work of art yourself, and you are a work of art in progress. And we will be unfolding as this year unfolds in a way that is not to be denied, not to be missed. So I look forward to seeing you for the next level of energy, which will be the first level of energy. This is Donna Iona Drozda. This is Wren House Studio, and I'm so grateful that you are here. I'll see you soon.